Hey y'all, what's up? My name is Tiara. You can call me T because we're gonna get real comfortable at the table talk. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Yeah, and I'm Quentin, but you can call me Q. I'm good with that.
And I'm Shaquanzia, and you can call me Shay.
All right, y'all. So we are a part of the Concord Young Adults, and we have just been really discussing some things that we're like, we need other people to be in on these conversations.
Yeah.
We really do.
Yeah.
So at the table, we talked a lot about insecurity. And one of the big things that Pastor Carter talked about was settling due to insecurity. So let's just dig into, like, have you been in a season of settling or an instance of settling and you knew it was due to insecurity? Like, what did that feel like, and how did you learn kind of lessons through that season?
You want to take this one first? Because she had a comment. You had a comment before she even finished.
I know, but I think we should say the best for last.
Oh, okay.
We should say the
Let's
best
get the
for
trash out the way then, I guess. Then she didn't hit me with my mic. That's her, right? Yeah. Yeah, it was me. Yeah. You know, I think the bad part about that is it's so easy for that to trickle down, right? When you compromise in one area, you find yourself believing, one, you've had to tell yourself, this is all I deserve, right? And that's tough on us. I know me. When I mess up, when I do something wrong and something doesn't go my way, I almost feel like I kind of deserve that. You know what I mean? So I think when we settle, it puts us in a mental space of, I don't deserve better, which is bigger than the situation that we're even in, because now we take less with our jobs, we take less with our spouses, we take less with even the dreams that we have. We just settle into good enough. And God didn't call us just for good enough. You know what I mean? He said he wanted abundant life. Abundant don't sound like good enough. So yeah.
Me, I think that when I said, you know, the whole settling word, a lot of people relate it back to relationships, but I feel like that could be with your job. Like he said, you know, even with relationships or just doing everyday things. But I know, like, for me, it's an insecurity that stems from me hurting people, if that makes sense. Like, I always feel like I want to set that boundary and not settle for a certain thing, a relationship. But I'm like, I may hurt that person's feelings, which I know, like, I deserve more than what this person could give me. And it's like, I'm just settling for that. So that was the past, though. Let me just say that was the past. And I have learned to, like, move forward from that and, like, actually go for what I deserve. Go for exactly what I want and not settle in those areas.
Yeah, I found like the danger sometimes in settling is it can get real comfortable.
Yes.
And become the norm. So it's like, then you start to not even be able to see or envision more than, like, the space that you're in. So it's super important, I feel like, and I've learned that before you get too far, like, you are mindful of what it is that you know God has for you, what he's promised you, and what a healthy relationship should look like, so that before you get into those habits, because sometimes settling just fall on you, be like, doggone it, I did settle. How I get here? And then I think it's hard to, like, backtrack out, because now it's people's feelings involved. Now it's like, oh, well, I'm making excuses of why I can't do something else or be in a different space. So I think a lesson I learned is just, like, pay attention to the red flags, like, that this might not be, like, all that God has for you in this space.
Yeah. And, you know, two things to kind of add to that. Like, time, we don't like to wait. You know what I mean? Baby. Like, we don't realize, like, we talked about, I think Pastor talked about it too, talked about David, right? And Saul. Well, this dude was anointed king at 10 years old. He wasn't king at 10 or 11 or 20. I want to say he was 40 before he became king, right? But him waiting those 30 years allowed him to receive the maximum. We want it. We are J.G. Wentworth. It's my money and I want it now, right? Now. And I think that's what causes, that's one of the things that, you know, kind of causes us to settle too, you know? And when we finally realize the place that we're in, I think it also causes a bit of frustration. Now we're begrudgingly doing something or going through something because we didn't wait. We didn't have the patience to hold out for what we deserve. Now we're stuck. So,
And I also kind of think like social media kind of puts us in a place to where we feel like we want to settle because we look on social media and we look at the things that people have or the relationships and things that they're in, and we want it so bad. So just like he said, we rush to get to it. And it is so fake. We don't know what they did to get to that point. We just see whatever they put on social media. And you know, we all just like, I'm gonna get a man, I'm gonna get a woman so that we can walk on the beach and hold hands. Y'all don't know what just happened in their room before they got to the beach, you know? So, you know, I have learned social media is not reality, right? So I don't want to settle for something that I see on social media. You know, I want to be able to wait for what God has for me, because once I will know what God has for me because it will feel so right. It won't feel like I'm settling or just feel like, you know, I just have to be in a relationship so that I won't be lonely. So for me, I know like I'm just going to wait for what God has for me. I will know that feeling when it comes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that God, like, he doesn't leave us in those seasons where, or instances where we settle. It's like there's always that agitation. Like sometimes it's like, okay, I maybe could do this, but then we like, nah, I can't do this. Like there's always that
I'm
little
there,
bit
Tia.
that
Right now. I've been talking to you. I'm there. Don't give me,
in our prayers.
Good Lord. Okay.
That agitation is just like, there's something in me that the Holy Spirit saying like, nah, this not it. Like, could I do this? Or maybe I could. It's like, nah, this ain't it. And let me tell you, if you feeling that now, you're probably gonna keep feeling that because that's God saying, move, do something different.
Tia, move.
I would feel like if God is in it, we won't be confused, right? Nope. We will not be confused. It'll be a clear mindset. So
yeah.
All right. It's safe to say that like your opinion of you is good enough, right? Like how you feel about you and how God feels about you is enough. Why do y'all think we seek approval from other people based on decisions that we're going to make for us?
I personally feel like we all want to be liked, right? Like you want to be liked. So I often find myself like trying to do things, you know, and seek approval in the aspects of, you know, I'm going to do this so these people can like me, or, you know, or I'm going to do things this way because maybe people will like things the way that I do it, instead of like being my, you know, authentic self and just doing exactly what it is that I want to do. And I have learned like the best thing to do is just to be yourself and try not to seek that approval from other people, because as you seek approval from others, it's like, it's never going to flow the way that you want it, right? Because people be like, oh, she trying too hard, or, you know, oh, she doing too much. When, you know, when you're actually yourself, things are more settled. It flows more. So for me, I've learned like, just show up as you, just show up as yourself, no matter what others will think, because if they're meant to go on this walk or whatever journey it is with you, they'll come, you know, with you just being yourself. So you don't have to change anything about you.
Yeah. And honestly, culture switches up every other day. So he's seeking approval for one thing and it be something totally different about the time you get your plan together of who you're going to be. So, and that's what time consuming, have you stressed out. But I also think like, and you started with like, do you see yourself as your highest self? And I think that itself is like a journey. I think there's some days where I wake up and I'm like, oh yeah, like what they say now, you the it girl today. Like you got this, you got your to-do list, and I feel that. But then there's some days where I do feel insecure. And I think especially, this plays out for me in transitions when God has elevated you in places and you may feel kind of that imposter syndrome. So it's like I have to show up, and especially I feel like as Black people, sometimes we feel like we have to show up and we got the weight of the culture on our shoulders, right? So it's like I don't want to mess up because I'm in this space where you know, I want to be liked, or I want to feel like people see my value and worth. But honestly, when we get into our word and realize like, I am who I am regardless of a job, regardless of a relationship, regardless of, my status and really understand, going back to your beginning point of who you are, I think then I'm not seeking anybody approval but God. You can like it, you can take it, because one day I might be your best friend, the next day you might be like, oh, she get on my nerves. But guess what? Like, God still says I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. God still says I'm chosen, I am loved, and that's what you have to stand on.
Have y'all ever seen the analogy of the couple and the donkey?
No.
You ever seen this? All right. Why are you looking at me like that?
I want to know about it. I want to know.
1946 analogy.
Now I want to know.
Okay, so this changed my life. All right, so this analogy is an old couple walking with a donkey. Okay, so imagine she look like, oh, she look like, oh, okay, a car. Okay, so there are people looking at this older couple walk with this donkey. Okay, one guy sees them and the couple's walking next to the donkey, and they say, "How dumb is that? They're both walking. They got a donkey. Why don't they just get on the donkey?" Eventually, the wife gets on the donkey. Down the line, somebody else sees them. What kind of insensitive wife would be riding on a donkey and have her husband walking? Eventually, later on down the line, she gets off, he gets on. So now he's riding, somebody else sees him. Is chivalry dead? So you got your wife walking and now you're riding? It doesn't matter the situation. If somebody wants to find the negative, they're going to find it, right? That changed my life when I realized that. No disrespect to Tiara. I don't care what Tiara think about me, right? Don't matter to me one bit, right? Now, if it's constructive criticism, I take it, right? I always want to be the best version of me. But when it comes to how I move, if God is pleased, I don't care. You know what I mean? Because the people who want to love you, no matter how much bad you do, they gonna love you. The people who want to hate you, no matter how much good you do, they still gonna hate you. So I just live my life the best way I feel like God wants me to live it. And the ones who talk, I let them talk.
That analogy is going to change my life, okay?
And you was looking at me
like
crazy.
Because I like it.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that analogy, okay? It's going to change my life because that was a great perspective.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what, people will talk about you. If they don't like you, they're going to talk about you.
Yeah.
You know, so that was a good analogy. I love it.
Yeah, it was cool. I wasn't a big LeBron guy early on. When he went to Cleveland, when he was playing for Cleveland, he left Cleveland and went to Miami. I just watched him murder this boy, right? Over a basketball decision. So I started rooting for LeBron just because I felt bad for him, right?
Yeah.
And I look at him now, hands down, I don't think it's even close. Maybe Jackie Robinson, maybe. I think he's probably the most scrutinized athlete in the history of sports, probably, right? No scandal with his same wife or girlfriend since high school. Now they married with kids. No bribes, no drugs, no nothing. Like nothing off the court. He's been a role model. I know he's sinned and got things wrong, right? But from the outside looking in.
He had a little Real Housewives situation. I don't know if you're familiar, but
don't do run like that. Did he really?
Ladies that watch and gentlemen that watch Real Housewives.
Oh, dang, bro, don't do me like that, bro.
It was a little situation, but it was said that it was before. So we don't know. That's what the people say.
But I look at him, and the vitriol that comes with this dude is just ruthless. And one thing I do appreciate about him, he don't respond to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He just kind of takes it in stride because I really believe he thinks, one, you don't know me, right? And the people I feel like who know us can correct us lovingly.
Yep.
The outside noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. So we're going to continue with our talks on insecurity. Thanks, Shay, for just coming and hanging out with us.
I enjoyed it.
Talking about settling, talking about seeking approval. And this is stuff we all deal with. Y'all are not alone. As you can see, we all got stories. We all have experiences. But the biggest thing is that we learn from them. So we'll see you next time on Table Talk.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Table Talk Podcast, presented by the Concord Church Young Adults. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, in addition to follow us on Instagram at Concord Young Adults.